Hey, it's Tom from Debleable. I'm going to be continuing my basic HTML tutorial series. And we're going to be getting into the project that I've been talking about. Now, I'm probably going to do just a simple website. A simple website for displaying text information, some photos, so kind of like an About You kind of page. Just a very simple page. And then we're going to try and just spiff it up with some CSS after, maybe put some Flash games on it, and we'll just do an all-around general website to cover all our bases. So first we're going to create a new folder. We're going to call this the website. Once in the website, you're going to need to create a new HTML document. So we're going to call this index.html. So we're going to open it up. Now, this is the basic tutorial series. So, we're going to try and stay on the basic side of everything. Try and keep everything nice and simple, but still look neat and tidy. So, what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a table. Now, a table is not like a table you'd find in a kitchen table. If you've ever used like a Word document, you might find a table, or a table in like Excel for displaying information. But a table's kind of like a chart or graph. You'll see. So this is how a table works. Okay, 1 second. Just grab my mouse here. So once we have this here, I'm just going to minus the head tag. We don't need that right now. Now I'm going to create a table. I'm going to close the table. And once I have this table, I'm going to create some room in there. So, this is our table. Now I'm going to give this table an ID, which is more for organization, because I can look at that ID and I know what that ID is. And I'm going to call this main... I'm going to call it site. I'm just going to call it con for container. S container. Site container. So this is what's going to set the main organization for the website. Now, when I'm designing my tables, I like to put a border on it so I can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the border. I'm going to set 1. Now, when you do TR, that is table row. So if I put something in here, I'm wondering if it would show up. Yes, it does. Now, that little speck there, that's actually our table, because it's not actually in something. You need to put a TD. I don't know if it's basically like a table column. I don't know what the D is for, but anything in a table without the table column actually isn't in the table. So once we put this in here, you'll see that we have our table. So we have, right now it doesn't really look like much. It looks like a border around our font, but that's what it is. So if I took this for a quick explanation of tables and did this, this is going to put another column, which would look like this. Now if I took this whole thing, went down because I probably don't want this, this is going to create a new table row, and in that table row, it's going to do the exact same thing. So if I went like this and went 1, and boom. So now we have, here I'll just number these. Save. Now we have ASD1, ASD2, ASD3, ASD4. Now, what we want is we want somewhere to put our logo or picture right at the top of the page. So we don't need necessarily ASD2. We remove that, save, page. Okay, we have this. Oh, okay, well, this isn't going over there because there's not enough content, you would think. That's what you think. So you put some more content and you're hoping it moves over. Oh no, it's not moving over. Why? Well, there's something called cell spacing that we need to put in. I mean, not cell spacing. It's, I think it's row span, or is it column span? No, it's row span, because we want to span across the row. So now we're just going to put, this is an attribute, and if I put 2, it's going to span across 2 rows. That did not work. It's column span. What am I talking about? Column span, yes, because it's spanning across 2 columns. I save this. Oh, forgot. Don't have any content in there. That's probably why it's not working. Put some content. Now we have a place for a menu. Now you're probably looking at this saying, that's not a website. It is tiny. This is not what we need for a website. We need it to be big, hold content. This is not what it looks like the start of a website. Well, first of all, we want to have our main content centered. So this is just going to center the table that we have. Center. I'm going to save this. So now we have it centered. Still doesn't look like much of like a title. So I'm going to call this web page, I'm going to call it All About This. And I'm going to put some H1 tags in here. Though I don't like using them, they're very simple. We can go ahead and change them after. Maybe we'll get an actual picture in there. We now have All About This. Now let's say, suppose I wanted this to be bigger than what's actually there. Well, I could go in the table and I could set a width. So if I go in here, quote, quote, and I set the width to 450 pixels, it's going to be 450 pixels. So if I right click on this and go expect element, I'm going to put it on here and I should see 450 pixels. It's another cool feature in Firefox and Google Chrome. You can expect the website, and this can help if with troubleshooting. But again, I would like to note, do you see the line break under the H1 tag for absolutely no reason? That's why I don't like using H1 tags. I think it has something to do with line spacing or something, but I just rather stay away from them. But for now, it's okay. So I'm probably going to want to center my title in there. Center this title. /center. Now that we got that going, we definitely don't want our website to be that small. So I'm going to move this over, make this a little bit bigger. And I'm thinking maybe 750. Maybe that's a good size. Now that's going off a little bit, and for testing purposes, I'm going to scroll out maybe a little bit, just a little bit. 750. It's a thin website, but it's plausible for that to happen. So, I'm going to go off, I'm going to try and make a website that has main content in the middle, or almost in the middle, and then it's going to have some side content, like banners at the side, and maybe we might put our navigation there. So to do that, right now we have a middle, right here, ASD3 and ASDF. But they're sharing right now. I don't want that. I do not want them to share. So I can do a similar thing like I did with the table. So I'm just going to copy the width out of here, because I'm lazy and don't want to retype it. And I can just change the width to basically anything I want. So if I set this to 600, that's going to leave 150 for this one, which is going to make that one, oops, you need to save the file, 150 over here. Now that I'm looking at it, that's pretty small. So sometimes you just need to look and decide. Put that to 550. I'll give it 200. You know what? I'll put it to 225. 225 over there. Now, I'd like to reinforce the fact that that's going to be 225, so I'm just going to go over here, and I'm just going to set that to 225. Save. Refresh. Get the same thing. That's good. Well, almost the same thing. But the reason why you don't get the exact same thing is because we do have a border on here which is messing stuff up. But that's irrelevant. Because the border will not be there when we actually create the website. So, now that we have it's starting to look like a website, but it's still not there yet. One thing we can do is we can add height. Now, I don't want to expand the height of this. I would like to expand the height of the lower table row. So, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to set the height to, I would say maybe about 500 pixels. I think that would give us a good height for now. So now we have, as you can see here, we could put some content in here, some content in here, and content in here. Now, we probably don't want the content being vertically aligned with a vertically centered. We want it to be at the top. So easy enough to change. We're going to use another attribute. We're going to use the v-align attribute, which is we just go in here and we put top. If you are using IE by default, it's also horizontally centered, which you would have to change that too. But because of how IE works, I usually don't do that. I usually use CSS, which we will do after. So I'm just going to do this to both. Now, currently, this really isn't that attractive. This is an ugly website, and I am going to say it. So what we need to do is we need to add some color. So a good trick is to use contrast. You need to bring their eye naturally from the website to the content. Right now we have this white space around the border or the body. So we can change the BG color. If I go in here, set this to black, or if I use some hexadecimal 000, save this, refresh this, and you say, oh my goodness, we can't even read any of the font. Well, that's pretty much the easiest thing in the world to change. I can come in, I can either change the font, or I can change the table color, because the table right now is inheriting that color, that attribute from the body, the BG color, because that BG color works exactly the same on the table. So I'll just copy and paste that in, and I could make the table white again if I wanted to, or I could go with a little bit darker, I mean lighter, and I think that looks interesting for now. See, we can have individual BG colors on even the tables. So I could come in here and I could put the BG color on, I could make this one a little bit lighter, so like that, and we could make this one black, create a font color, create a font tag in here. I usually put font tags inside my H1 tag so they can't mess around with it, because anything I have over here will overwrite it. So if I wanted to change line spacing, or if I had something already programmed for H1, but that's no, I think it's a pretty important thing to do. It helps a lot. So if I go in here and I just change the color to white, or 3Fs, we now get this, which I don't know about you, but I think it stands out a lot more. So I'm going to wrap up this tutorial, and what I want you to take from this tutorial is basically tables are very, very useful, and they're used for organization. They can be used for organization. Now I'm going to leave this tutorial off here, and in our next tutorial we're going to be getting a picture logo in there instead of just saying all about us and just text.